Hello everyone, so in today's video I'm going to share with you a free workshop that I attended a few days ago. This was part of a yearly national event called Paper Week, where people organize and try to promote and educate people about paper culture and recycling and also sustainability. The workshop that I signed up for consisted in basically creating a visual journal using scrap papers or papers received from suppliers that the workshop teachers didn't use anymore, or we could also bring our own scrap paper, which I did, of course. And this process, they also taught us about some basics about letterpress and bookbinding. I just happened to see about this Paper Week event on social media, and this particular workshop interested me because, as someone who loves analog journaling or anything related to paper or stationery, I'm in. Most importantly, it was also free, so I didn't have anything to lose. And luckily, the workshop didn't disappoint. I did learn a few new things about paper and just I don't know, the world of arts in general. The teachers and also the other participants were all so friendly, and I don't know, I just really loved being surrounded by people who love the same things as I do, but also seeing them loving what they personally do was also kind of, I don't know, really heartwarming. I wasn't able to film everything because I just felt kind of shy pulling out the camera all the time, and I also wanted to just be in the moment and learn as much as I could while being there. But I was still able to capture a few things. So that's why I'm sharing this experience with you. So without dragging this too much, let me bring you along. The first afternoon was dedicated to a brief lecture on letterpress history and printing the cover. We had the opportunity to experiment with the letter forms available in the workshop to create cut-up text and typographic patterns and observe how these interact with different papers. All the other participants in the workshop had a little bit of background related to art or graphic design. A lot of technical words were quite familiar for them, but I was a bit lost at first. However, it was easy to understand once we started with the more hands-on part. The biggest takeaway from this first day is how the fonts are measured. Letterpress printing doesn't use centimeters, but points, which makes sense if you think about it. When you use a Word file and choose the font size, it's always in points and not centimeters, something which I never questioned before going into this workshop. We chose what font we wanted to print the words in, so each one of us, after choosing a word, we composed the word on this wooden board. We had to fill the words in a 50-point space. The font that I chose was Grotesque Condensed, and I stuck with one font. You could also mismatch fonts, like some other participants did, but I just wanted to make the process less confusing, since figuring out how to place the letters was already quite disorienting, because the way you place them for printing has to be mirrored and upside down too. Then, the teachers explained how they secure the stamps before printing, how the letterpress process is prepared, the kind of ink they use, and more. We all decided to go with a very vibrant neon orange and a deep purple, which surprisingly turned out a really nice color pairing. Since we weren't experts, the way that each print came out was quite different, but they had their charm. The type of ink used is not water or alcohol based, so it takes a long time to dry up. That's why the second part of the workshop was 2 days later.
In effetti è la prima passata, però forse no.
On the second day, we moved on to the binding phase to complete the visual journal. The focus was on creating the interior and the final binding. We first cut out the sides of the print we made a few days ago, and yes, the ink on some of them was still a bit wet, but it wasn't really bothering. These were going to be the covers of the journals. From the big scrap paper pile the teacher provided us, we chose the ones we wanted to bind our journals with. Even though they were scrap papers, they still looked quite beautiful and they were perfect material to make a journal with. These are the ones that I picked up. I first wanted to go with a color scheme, but I just ended up choosing the ones that caught my eyes. We first cut out the papers in our preferred size. I decided on a 25 per 15 centimeters and a standard traveler's notebook insert size, which was a 21 per 11 centimeters, so I could use it for my actual journals. We spent most of the time cutting up papers. Some of us were a bit faster. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to film this part, but after punching holes in our papers, the teachers then taught us two bookbinding techniques, which were probably the easiest ones. The first one was called the three-hole pamphlet stitch style, and the second one was the Japanese stab binding. However, they weren't as easy as they looked. It was impressive how even the simplest stitch had their own logic, and if you wanted to have a good looking and sturdy bind, you had to follow certain rules. And this is how my journals turned out. So after the workshop, we came back home with these two journals, which I am super happy and super satisfied with, and I can't wait to use them up. For this one, I will definitely use this in my traveler's notebook, and for this one, I still have to think about it. I must say that I wasn't the biggest fan of this very bright neon orange, but now after looking at it for a couple of days, I am quite fond of it, and yeah, it has its own charm. I'm so happy. And I don't know, it just makes this even more precious, the fact that we made everything from scratch, like even the printing of the cover, which is something that I never did because in the past I did stitch inserts on my own, but I never really followed any rule. I just stitched things like randomly, and as long as they were all together, I just never really thought about having any kind of like system or process. But after this, I will definitely be more careful on with how I stitch things up and how I put things together. And another thing that I learned is that the paper also have a direction. So if you want to make it fold more easily, you have to follow the direction that the paper was made. I don't know how to explain that, but basically there is like a certain logic in how the paper is made and how you can bind the paper too, so you can fold it easily and you can also turn the page more easily. I'm just so happy. The cover, there's a lot of like fingerprints because the ink wasn't able to dry up in 2 days. So when we were binding the papers, we were like basically like touching the inks all over, and so that's why it's not like super clean. I also brought like my own papers, but I only bought two, and this is the one that I got. I don't know if you remember, but I bought this like in December, I think, and I still haven't used it, but I finally got the chance to use this in a bookbinding. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope you liked this video. It was really fun to share with you, and I am so happy that I got to participate in this workshop, and I'm so glad that I was able to see this event. And I will see you in the next one. I will probably share another journaling related video too, so if you're interested, you can subscribe and wait for the next one. Okay, see you, and thank you for being here. Bye.